Hey guys, for tonight's trial rerun, we're going to be going to Scorn of the Genies and using a new unit to make this very easy to survive. Basically, we can't die. So we're going to be going to Scorn of the Genies hard mode. We're going to be doing all the missions, evoking SPR 8 turns or less, 5 units or less. So we're not going to be taking a friend, although shout out to Tommy who did build me a unit. It turns out we don't even need a friend for this. This is going to be the team Scorn of the Genies Advanced. We're going to be going for all missions, taking advantage of Kresnik's Magnus to make the Genies deal 0 damage to our party. And then Shui Yu is going to be using some of our new Spirit double hand gear to do some decent damage. Here's the team, let's get into it, and I will show the gear afterwards. Now overall, this is a little tricky to build for the Provoker because we need high resistances. The rest of the gear is pretty cheap, and you can use a friend Shui Yu to carry this if you want to. So we don't take any damage at all for the fight. We're going to go ahead and use the Shifted Magnus of Kresnik to imbue the enemies with light element for 3 turns, and the fight will be over before that wears off. We're going to use Realm to fill LB gauge with Masterpiece and You're Still Standing. We're going to use Shui Yu to triple cast Rippling Pond on the red one. That's going to fill LB gauge for Nicole to do his shifted LB, and Cafeteria to do her base form LB. Now the enemies are imbued with light. We're absorbing light thanks to Kresnik, so they do a ton of physical damage, but if your party is absorbing all the physical damage, do we really care? Nope. Okay, so now we're going to use, let's see, Realm to Rod and Peril the enemies and give us a Spirit Killer buff. Now, we only absorb light for the first turn. The next 2 turns, the enemies are still imbued with light, but we're not absorbing it anymore, so we're going to use Kresnik to Arcane Antioxidant to make us a light resist buff, so we start taking 0 damage instead. Shui Yu with Nicole's LB is now going to use her LB to cap a chain. Nicole is going to triple Wardiga to support chain, and Cacteria using the Erinys ring is going to triple Wardiga and then Alterna for the 4th cast. So let's go ahead and start this and then cap it with Shui Yu. And Shui Yu's LB will do some pretty good damage. As you can see, she hits kind of hard when you've got Kresnik's Vision card for that Spirit double hand. Not to mention Nicole's LB buffs. And the enemies are still imbued with light, which we are now resisting thanks to Kresnik. They cannot hurt us. And they do magical damage, but the magical damage is being resisted by our Provoker, which in this fight is Nicole. So we're going to go ahead and use Kresnik to just normal attack to fill LB gauge, so we can do this again. There is a mission to summon an Esper, so Realm will go ahead and do that. Boom, Esper summon done. Let's go ahead and cap this chain again with Shui Yu. And we can just LB every single turn with Shui Yu, thanks to Kresnik. So there is the one weak to water. The other 2 are not weak to water. They're going to take a little bit longer to kill, not much longer. They're still imbued with light element thanks to Kresnik. They cannot hurt our party. This is the coolest Magnus ability in the universe. I love this Magnus. 3 turns of absolute invulnerability. And when the fight's over by turn 4, that's all you need. So Kresnik will go ahead and normal attack again to fill our LB gauge back up, so we can just keep dropping those LBs with Shui Yu every single turn. And here we go. There is the fight in 4 turns. No damage taken whatsoever. All missions complete. 5-unit team, 8 turns or less, summoned an Esper. Okay. Now, of course, if you don't have your own Shui Yu, you can bring a friend Shui Yu to carry this. Kresnik is sort of required for this strategy. The hardest thing for you to build on your own will be the Provoker. You'll notice when we get in here, my Provoker is geared exceptionally well. The Provoker is really hard to build because of the resistance requirements. Let's go ahead and show the team that we used for that. Alright, so we've got, let's see here. So here's the team. Shui Yu is obviously the star here. If you have your own, great. If not, whatever. Base form, kind of whatever. She just used her base form to cast Rippling Pond to fill LB gauge for the party. That's mostly to fill up Cacteria so you can LB on turn 1. Other than that, shift form is geared for her LB damage. She's using a rod, which is for the rod in peril. Her LB in the shift form is spirit based, so we got 4,100 spirit and chain cap increased spirit killer. There is her build. The Ruin to Remedy card is a huge help here because it gives Spirit Double Hand, one of the big weaknesses of Shui Yu's shifted LB, which is sort of remedied by Kresnik. Anyway, she had 275 LB damage and 275 Fairy Killer. Another unit is Kresnik. Not too important, his build. He's just using quad attack with his normal, so we can do the LB fill. The whole party has 20 or better to light resist, so that we can use Kresnik's 80% buff to give us light immunity as well for the damage. There's Kresnik's build, both forms geared identical, just, quad attack. And his Magnus is the light imbue for 3 turns on the enemies, which is a huge help to survive the Genie fight. Realm, build not too important, just enough HP to survive when she does her LB fill on turn 1. Other than that, she does Rod in Peril and Fairy Killer. A little bit of Bayment synergy so we can get an Esper summoned by the 3rd turn, so you can summon an Esper to say we did all missions. Honestly, with the AoE chaining, we probably didn't even need Bayment synergy, but just for the absolute security that we filled the Esper gauge by turn 3, we put that on her. Cacteria, not really too important here. We gave her the chain ability with Arc Arcana, Erinny's Ring for the quad cast, Lucai, so she has something to do with the 4th cast because Nicole is a triple caster, and we need a triple cast, and then like a slow cast as the last ability so it doesn't break the chain. So we did 3 times Wardiga, and then 1 times Alterna as the last cast, so the chain wouldn't break. Call of the Wild, and then we filled her LB gauge on turn 1 thanks to Realm, Call of the Wild, and Shui Yu doing Rippling Pond. That's pretty much it. We didn't use the shift form, so there we go. She was the 87% AoE breaker, and her LB also applies a 130 Water in Peril to all enemies. Technically Fist in Peril as well, but we didn't really use that. And then Nicole, this is the one that's kind of hard to build because whatever. His base form is naked because we stayed in the shift form for the fight. Shift form is passive provoke and 250 to fire, wind, and dark. Now that I think about it, actually, doesn't Kresnik's buff give 80 to all resistances? I think it does, actually. Oh, so we actually, we didn't need that much resist. We only needed, so 250 minus, we only needed 170, technically, to Nicole. I kind of overgeared him. Well, I geared him for immunity even without buffs. We used an 80% all buff because the magical damage only starts on turn 2. And we had a buff on turn 2. So we actually only needed 170 to fire, wind, and dark. So maybe it's not as hard to gear as I realized. I didn't think of that. In any case, passive provoke only needed 170 to fire, wind, and dark. I kind of went all the way and geared 250 to all 3. But we didn't really need that, I suppose. Anyway, Nicole did his shifted LB for the 45% water amplify, the 350 all stat buff, and technically gives an LB damage buff as well, although Shui Yu doesn't need that. She brings her own LB damage buff passively. And then other than that, he chained every single turn. There was the clear. And we left the friend slot empty. You can, like I said, you can bring your own friend. You can bring a support unit if you need more support, more buffs, etc., etc. Anyway, there we go. See you next time.